I can't believe we're already 3 weeks into the season, but still no solid alliances or split house or anything normal really. But all that is likely to change this week as things start to solidify more. Now, we do have a brand new HOH for the week, but their plans are starting to look pretty similar to the ones that we've seen before. Of course, I'm going to explain all that in a second, but before I do, I'm going to ask if you would please hit that subscribe button below if you have not yet. We all know that the TV edit just does not show everything that goes on in the game, so live feed recaps like this really are the best way to find out what happens in the house day to day. Here on my channel, I try to be quick with my recaps while still adding in clips from the actual live feeds themselves so that you can see the action unfold. So if you are someone who's interested in a deeper dive as to what goes on the show, then this is the channel for you, and make sure you're subscribed. Now, let's get started. So as we just saw on Thursday's eviction episode, Amy was just evicted unanimously, which wasn't really surprising at all since she was up against Will, but I have to admit I was a little bit shocked that it was unanimous. I thought Rachel and Ashley would maybe be votes for Amy to stay if anything, but when I think about it, it does kind of make sense because Rachel being the one outlying vote would just heighten the target on her even more. And with Amy ultimately being up against Will, the odds were just never going to be in her favor, unfortunately. So with that, that spells the end of Jimmy's HOH reign, which I have to admit was just a little disappointing to me. Okay, fine. It was more than a little disappointing just because he talks all this big shit and he had this big list of ops that he wanted to get out in the beginning of the week, and ultimately he ended up getting out freaking Amy. I do definitely think there was more room to go bolder and get out a bigger threat, but hey, that's Jimmy's game. So with Amy out of the house, that is a wrap for week 2 as the house guests go off to compete in the next HOH comp. The feeds were down for a while on Thursday night, but when they came back, we all saw that Lauren has won and is our new HOH for the week. Which is kind of crazy, seeing as though she was talking about how she wanted to stay in the middle and lay low during this first half of the game. And now it's looking like she's going to have to show some of her cards. So let's just take a moment to talk about where Lauren stands in the game. First of all, she seems the closest in general with Vince, Zach, and Katherine. Her and Vince made a final 2 during the first week, and I believe her and Katherine have made a final 2 at some point in the game too. But most importantly, she is a member of that Bond alliance that was just created last week. Now, I've been a little hesitant to really call this thing an alliance, seeing as though they met up one time and literally never again after that. And as the night goes on, we're going to see that this so-called alliance is going to start to unravel bit by bit. So right off the bat, and this is just something that I thought was funny, we're going to see Jimmy and Vince celebrate Lauren's HOH win with her. And so they're both going to pull her to a room and start giving her advice on how to be an HOH. And to me, it does kind of come across as mansplaining a little bit, which I just thought was funny because how are Vince and Jimmy, the two people that failed to get out their targets, now going to walk up to me and tell me how to be head of household? Like, okay, thanks. Now, at the end of the day, this really wasn't the biggest deal to Lauren at all, but it was enough to make people like Rachel even start to notice.
Don't let someone run your HOH. I know those boys are going to try to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
You should do what's best for your game.
Yeah.
Whatever that means, just don't let them run your HOH.
Yeah. I won't. I promise.
Like, Jimmy's going to take credit for it, and Vinny, whoever. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to say, oh, we ran the HOH.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout the night, Lauren is going to have her one-on-ones and talk to everybody just to see where their heads are at. But it does seem like her main goal is to get through the week without getting any blood on her hands. Surprise, surprise. And overall, she's aiming to make the most neutral, non-offensive nominations possible. Which means that right off the bat, she is going to be naming Keanu as her main target.
I know a lot of people still want Keanu, right?
I think that's going to be the #1 name you're going to hear. I think it's a safe play because a lot of people would be happy. Like, you would make a lot of people happy. Even the other 2 people that you nominate are going to have some sense of relief saying, at least I'm next to Keanu.
Keanu is just a super easy but boring pick for the block, so I don't blame her for that at all. I do like that he's at least fighting for himself in his one-on-one though. He is telling Lauren that he's never planning on putting her up and that he is a super easy target for literally anybody else to get out the house, which all that is technically true. But again, he is just way too tempting of a nomination for somebody who is wanting to lay low. So on the block he goes. Now, things do start to get a little bit tricky after this, since she would like her 2 other nominees to be pawns. Of course, I'm using that word very loosely because we know what happens to pawns in this game. Now, one of the easier options for the block is Kelley, since she is 1, a house outcast, and 2, she has been on the block before. And initially, Lauren doesn't really want to put Kelley up, but thankfully, Kelley is just going to make this decision a hell of a lot easier when, you guessed it, she volunteers to go up as a pawn again.
If you are continually hearing my name and you think it's best for your game to put me up, I give you full permission to do that. I feel fully confident that I can take myself down. And I feel double confident now that I have the numbers to stay.
I think so too.
Ever since she saved herself from the block twice, Kelley's cockiness has just been on an all-time high in this game. She is comparing herself to Tucker. She just thinks she is the comp queen, and she knows that she'll be able to take herself off the block if she's on there. So you know what? I'm just going to let her cook with that. So with 2 easy nominations down, that's just going to leave 1 more spot open on the block. And there are a few more names that are just thrown out into the air throughout the night. Lauren would low-key want to put Ashley up, but since that's considered to be a riskier move, she decides to save the Ashley nomination as a 4th renom if she needs it. Lauren just really is not the biggest fan of Ashley in general, just because Ashley has made some weird comments about her possibly being in a showmance and some other things before that Lauren just was not feeling.
130, 135.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Oh, so she's not
You're only a little like heavier than me.
But how tall?
4 pounds. 5 pounds. That means I'm fat.
I would say that.
If I'm 127 and you're 135 and you're like 5'8".
Ashley just tends to rub people the wrong way in general, and Lauren is definitely not the only one who said things like this about Ashley before, so I actually think that she would be a good nomination if Lauren decides to go that way. Lauren also briefly considers maybe nominating Rachel as a 4th nominee if she had to, but she's also dissuaded from doing this because obviously this would be a huge move and she doesn't even know if the numbers are there. Like, that would definitely be iffy. So I don't know if that was something she's like super seriously considered doing or if she was just kind of spitballing ideas. Now, the main person Lauren has on her mind as a possible 3rd nominee is Will, her Bond Alliance buddy.
I have not talked a single ounce of game with Will.
Yeah.
Not 1 word.
Yeah.
But he just won a vote 13-0, and everybody loves the guy. Mm-hmm. He was the last person to be put up overall to people.
Will is unfortunately just going to be looked at as such an easy pawn now, especially since he stayed unanimously, which obviously sucks for him. Which is why, word of advice, if anybody's ever considering going on this show, if anybody ever asks you to be a pawn, argue against it like your life depended on it, because it does. So eventually word gets back to Will about him possibly going up, and of course he is not happy.
You don't want to talk to her?
No. If that's the game we're going to play, I'm done.
Oh, Will, no. Don't say
I'm
that.
going. Good night.
Will, no.
Y'all tell me something in the morning.
No.
We'll link up in the morning.
We'll see. If y'all find out something new, let me know. Otherwise,
I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna talk still.
Now, I love that Will is getting passionate here. I really do. But I just hate the fact that he decides to ignore Lauren all night instead of confronting her right then and there. I feel like it would have been much better for him to get in there early and have his one-on-one with her before she's really decided and before she's talked to everybody and before she slept on that decision. Lauren is the type of player that really wants to be liked, and she doesn't really want the smoke for real, so I think guilt tripping her could work. Like, if I was Will, I would say things like, you know, I'm in the bond alliance with you. It means the most to me. I would never use you as a pawn. I would never treat you like that. So please don't treat me like that. A player like Lauren, who just wants to lay low and stay in the middle and keep up this sweet Southern girl shtick, that could totally work on her. So her and Will haven't talked yet at the time of this recording, but I'm really hoping that Will, you know, says something when they do. But then again, Lauren has already had a chance to talk to everybody and sleep on this decision, so I don't know if things would even change. Later on in the night, Lauren is gonna go meet with Adrian and Vince, and she's still not 1000% set on her nominations at this point. So they're all just kind of spitballing ideas, and in this conversation, Adrian is definitely throwing the most names out there. He is low-key suggesting that Jimmy goes up on the block because Adrian now hates him and considers him to be a big fat liar. But Lauren does not want to go with this option because she's cool with Jimmy and Jimmy never ended up putting her up, so there's that. Now, during this conversation, Vince is mostly quiet and Adrian definitely clocks this. It gets to the point where Adrian is now going up to Zach and talking about how like weird Vince was being and that he just does not trust him at all after that.
First, I mentioned one name, and that was Ashley, because what Ashley said, I don't distrust him, but I don't know, he's not saying any names, which I find great. I just tried to not say names so that we can't say that he said it, you know what I mean?
I'm personally very happy that somebody is finally starting to clock Vince's game, because I've been thinking a lot recently how this game is World War II and Vince is Switzerland, for all my fellow history nerds out there. Vince is trying his best not to get involved in the battle and stay neutral, but like it or not, he's just gonna be catching strays because he's in the middle of everything. So now there's just this big tension between Adrian and Vince, and Adrian doesn't trust him for anything, which is just weakening this bond alliance even more. So the nominations still have not happened yet at the time of this recording, but as it stands right now, it's looking like Keanu, Kelley, and Will be the ones hitting the block. Now, things could still technically change because I don't think Lauren has had all of her meetings yet, but she's had enough time to talk about this with her allies and sleep on this decision, so I wouldn't be surprised if it was locked in. So that is our main storyline happening in the game, but there are still a few other things that I'd like to touch on as well. There was this cute moment that happened last week where Rachel approaches Ava about being in a final two. I think Rachel just knew that Amy's game was dead in the water, so she was trying to find her next person. Now, I don't think these two really talk game too much, but when proposed, Ava got like super duper excited about the idea, so I'm just going to be watching these two from now on.
Are you serious? Well, if you're up for it.
Before I can tell you my favorites.
And speaking of Ava, I know that she doesn't really get the most screen time on the show, but I think that's a damn shame because she's personally one of my favorites. Her and Mickey both are just two people that I could totally see myself hanging out with in real life. And the past week, they've both just grown so much closer and are developing the cutest little friendship ever, and I just love it. They do talk game, of course, but they also just talk a lot about life in general. And the other night, they had this adorable moment where Mickey went to give Ava her tens, and Ava just had like the cutest, most wholesome, sweet reaction ever.
But it's like you have charisma, you have personality, you have confidence. I can tell you are loved. You know what I mean?
Thank
and it's
you,
like
Ricky.
you're not afraid to be yourself. And it's like, God, I would have killed to be like you years ago. You know what I mean? Can you imagine, like, knowing who you are now, how far you're going to go? This is me, like, 3 years into knowing who I am.
So that's pretty much all I have for today. Again, with Lauren in charge, it's looking like this week is going to be pretty straightforward. Keanu's game is still very much cooked, and it doesn't look like Mickey is going to be using her power this week either, so we may be in for more of a boring week. But then again, with these house guests, you never really know. Of course, I want to know, what do you think of Lauren as our HOH for the week? Do you think she is spot on with her nominations, or are there better moves that she could make instead? Let me know in the comments below. This is a double-edged sword for me because on one hand, I do think that these nominations are kind of dull, but on the other hand, I'm glad that my faves are going to be safe for the week, so it's a toss-up there. Of course, I'll be back likely sometime Saturday night to update you all with the results of the veto, but until then, bye.